end up being a business manager.
Nice. So tell me about your experience. What have you done up to this point?
So I worked in sales. I sold mortgages for a little bit out of college.
Okay.
And then I went to the manufacturing industry where I was an operations manager, kind of did a whole lot of everything there. And kind of, got a little sick of that and kind of moving into more of like I guess, smaller, but more.
We take the trust of our listeners very seriously, and I hope that you know that when I say that Shopware is the best automotive shop management system, I believe it in my heart of hearts. And now it's even better. With new features like Tech App, it streamlines the inspection and dispatching process for you and your technicians. And with massive improvements to Shopware's exclusive digital vehicle experience, they have stepped their game up to a whole new level. So if you haven't scheduled a demo yet, click the link in the show notes and do it today. If you've already had a demo and you were waiting to finally switch, there has never been a better time. So click that link and get started today.
I guess rewarding role.
Yeah.
In a way.
Gotcha. So help me understand a
little bit.
So
when you say you just got out of college, like last week?
I'm 29. I know I look like I'm
12.
12.
Good. No, this is good. 29. Congratulations on that.
Yeah.
You could be 44 and look like you're 60.
Yeah, I know it's a blessing now, but when you're young, it kind of sucks.
So help me understand, like when we talk about moving into business management role, in your eyes, what does that look like? And you've heard us sitting here talking about business management and some of the things that I've been going through recently. Adam is a very, very experienced shop owner. David's an experienced shop owner. So help us understand from your perspective, what do you think you're going to be doing in the business?
So it's going to be a lot of day-to-day operational stuff, pretty much managing personnel, human resources roles, whatever sort of, budgeting and, facility stuff that needs to happen. Pretty much an all-encompassing role to assist the owner of the shop.
Now, is the owner still going to be involved and still working on a daily basis?
Yes.
Okay. Have we separated out who takes what and who does what? Is there a list of tasks associated with each role? Because that's something, Adam, I don't know about you, that's something that I ran into in a big way, is especially the first manager. It's like, no, wait a minute, I'm the manager. Well, hold up. Who's the manager here? Who's doing what? And what I ran into is like, I wanted control of the things I wanted control of, but I never differentiated. Is this what this person does, or is this what I do? Right? Have you been given a list of tasks and things that you're supposed to be taking care of?
Not quite yet. We haven't gotten that far, but it from what I understand, it's more of a day-to-day operational thing, while he does more of the overall work for the business.
Okay, so he's going to handle things like workflow. He's going to handle things like running things through the shop and keeping the technicians flowing and managing the advisors and the quality of the work. And you're going to be handling things like payroll, I guess, and backside stuff. Is that correct?
That's what my assumption is, yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Adam, what do you think about that when you hear that?
I think it sounds like a shop owner that wants to relinquish control of things he doesn't want to do, and the things that he may want to do or not do, but doesn't want to relinquish control over, which is like the operations of the shop, workflow, cars, dispatching, that sort of thing. Sounds like he's trying to delineate those things and push them off, which is kind of unique and usually doesn't work in my experience.
Yeah, it's not unique. Everybody tries to do that. It's a terrible idea.
Well, I mean,
it never works.
It
never works
before. Yeah.
It is a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
I don't know what the actual roles are going to be.
Well, that's the problem, Peter, right? Like, I mean, when you interviewed for the job, that should have been presented with some sort of idea, and then if it moved beyond like an initial conversation, there should have been like a job description that was given to you and really fleshed out. So yeah.
So the way that this came to be is he's a family member.
Okay.
So I'm kind of just getting my feet wet. It may not even be something that I end up doing.
Yeah, got you.
Okay, so
you're more like interning.
In a way, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not 100% sure, what will be going on, what my roles will be.
You still want to take the approach though, as though this is going to work out fantastically,
always, yeah.
because if you half-ass it at the beginning with the assumption that it's like, it either works or it doesn't work. I'm paying this kid, whatever. He's 29 years old, not a kid, but I'm paying this guy X amount of dollars. It's whatever. If it works, doesn't work out, it's what, no harm, no foul. You're going to take that approach with everything and everybody, and you don't put 100% into it. It's definitely won't work out. I'm just saying, like, if you don't put all your effort into this, like, I'm going to make this work, this is going to succeed. It's like anything else. If you half-ass it, you're going to get half-ass results.
Yeah.
Or no results.
Why do something if you're just going to, half-ass it and then waste your own time?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you're wasting everybody's time.
Yeah.
Look, I think Adam nailed it here, because what do we as shop owners do? We get into a position where we feel overloaded, right? And if you've not read the book Clockwork, David recommended the book Clockwork years ago. Adam, have you ever read it?
No, I don't think so.
Man, it is phenomenal, because it talks about this cycle.
It's an E-Myth ripoff, by the way. That's what it is.
Do what?
It's an E-Myth ripoff.
Yeah, I mean, to a degree.
I just want to point out that guy has absolutely killed it. Taking like established books that have been around for 25, 30 years, he rewrites them with his own stories, releases the book, and then he makes a ton of money off of it. It is the craziest thing. And
Far
it's
smarter than we are, like, evidently.
I'm telling you, like, he took the E-Myth, slapped his stories at the beginning, sleeping under a table and nonsense like that, and then released it out and like profit first. Same thing. I can't remember the name of the book, but it's all the same garbage. Like, it's like, dude, this has been out for years and years and years. I mean, he's a good writer. He puts interesting stories in.
For sure. But here's the thing about Clockwork, right?
Seems
Is
like
we continually follow this pattern as business owners until we decide to do something different. And that is that we get all these tasks on us. We go and we hire someone, and we don't really train them or create processes, policies, and procedures that they can utilize to put into the business and make it work. And then we get frustrated because they're not doing the thing that we envision them doing, and we have to do everything anyway, and it's more stressful, so we let them go, and then we start the cycle all over again. And that happens time after time, especially in this space, because a lot of the guys who are running shops, a lot of the shop owners were technicians, they weren't business owners. And so they come into this and they go and they make these decisions because they don't understand. And they, Adam, I don't know if you resonate with this at all, but like when I first started working on my business, I had this list of things that I just knew was the problem. But the business coach I worked with, we didn't fix any of those things, right? Like I had in my head, those were the problems, but the problems were very simple and they were small and they weren't anywhere I thought they were. Did you have a similar experience?
I don't know if I necessarily did. But I think in regards to like working with a business coach and then like not solving certain problems, I think we end up like in the same manner, like we end up becoming our worst enemies, right? Because we're the masters of what we want to work on, what we should be working on, because the business coach is only going to go do so much for you without having enough information or being there with you every day, and he can only go by what you're telling him too, right? So in that regard, I mean, like we as business owners might know objectively what the problem is, we just don't speak about it, and we end up trying to solve other things, so I've experienced that.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, that's really what it was for me. I was unwilling to admit, like, but I don't want to do that. That sucks. I'm just going to hire somebody to do that. Let them deal with that, And I know that you've seen it. You see it in the groups. And so, Peter, we've got this massive clan of Facebook groups, right? And many of us run in a very similar circle, and there's lots of shop owner Facebook groups and Facebook groups for everybody and technicians and the whole 9 yards. And so we see this over and over and over again is the reason we bring it up. And it's something that kind of puts folks at odds against one another. And you will see a shop owner who says, hey, go do this thing, but they've never developed a system to do that thing. They're trying to take the workload off of them instead of fixing what's wrong with the business. And I'm not saying that to say this won't work. Don't misunderstand. This can definitely work. But I think you need to enter this prepared. And I think I'm going to tell you right now, a manager's coach is phenomenal.
and having good data is key. So luckily you're coming into a shop that's using Shopware. And so that means that our data is going to be pretty good. So you can look at that data, you can analyze that data, but you're coming into something where you're going to have to be able to analyze data at a completely different level, and you're going to have to understand KPIs you've never seen before. And so I think a manager's coach would be a big thing for you. And then you need to talk to the owner and you need to say, listen, as we get into this, we're going to have to work together to develop rules of engagement, if you will. So when the numbers aren't right and the numbers aren't working, I can have permission to coach you and we can fix these numbers. Because I'm dealing with a situation right now where I've got another shop, good friend of mine. He's talking to the owner and the guy's like, no, I don't want to change that. No, I don't want to do this. And no, I don't want to do that. And he's saying, right, but you made me the manager and we're at 30% gross profit on parts. Like, I can't do that. Like, you've given me a target and I have to hit this, but you're not even allowing me to change it. You're not allowing me to manage the business. And so I think that that's one of the biggest struggles that we see in that initial first manager. Do you know if this is the first manager the business has ever hired?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay. So you're coming into this completely blind and just like rolling into it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I have experience in management. I have experience in data analytics and all that stuff. Like, I worked for a company.
Oh, you're going to be in for a wild ride.
I mean, I worked for a company that produced truck parts for pretty much all of the major freight lines, like Freightliner, international trucking. So I've done the data analytics, and I've dealt with people making sure meeting deadlines and all that stuff. So I do have experience in that, but not specifically in this field.
I just want you to think about it this way. Imagine that the machine that is making XYZ widget, you just expect it to make the widget. You expect, I turn the machine on and it'll spit out widgets. I need X amount of widgets by the end of the day. That's it. That's what you think will happen. The problem is the machine is fighting with his girlfriend and he's got an attitude. And he sat around and drank his coffee for 30 minutes before he actually pulled the car in. And you're like, okay, so now we're behind in half an hour. And then what should take 45 minutes ends up taking 2 hours. And you're looking at it going, well, what is going on? And he throws an attitude. And you're like, okay, well, we're not going to keep pushing this button here because it's going to blow up into a thing. And so you got to tread lightly because you don't want the guy to like flip out. But also at the same time, you got to push him a little bit because the machine is not putting out X amount of widgets by the end of the day. So now you're stuck. What are you going to do? How are you going to manage that? It's awful. Is what I'm telling you.
It's not that bad.
Yes, it's exactly that, and it's awful.
Well, that's not what he's going to be doing, though, right? I mean, he's not going to be doing the workflow stuff. He's going to be doing like the back end stuff, so to speak.
That's what makes me afraid for him, right? Is like when we
what back end stuff? Like, what are we talking about here? He's going to order parts.
What is the expectation, right? Because
payroll.
How many times have we seen this, guys? How many times have we seen a shop owner take somebody and throw them in this position? I'm not saying, listen, Peter, I'm not saying the shop owner's doing something wrong or bad. He's doing what he knows how to do, right? And he's just employing you and putting you in here, and he's got in his head how this is going to fix something, but he's not communicated what he wanted fixed. He's not communicated what it is that we're going to be working on and what the task is that you're responsible for.
He may not need to fix anything, though. It could be that the business is just humming, and that will make him scared too, because he's like, well, I've got everything humming, and if this, I want to be able to step away. I want to take vacations. It's like, okay, great, but you're going to relinquish some control. It's not going to run exactly the way it ran under you because that person's not you. They're going to have a different style. They're going to talk to employees differently. They're going to talk to the customers differently. You have to be able to be comfortable with that and then relinquish that control and go, okay, they're going to manage it as long as they hit the metrics that I determined to be most important. And it's whatever. For you, example, Lucas, was throughput was 0. And so you found out that turns out to be extremely important. Like you can hit all these numbers on paper, but if the car never gets fixed or out the door, the hell does it matter that you sold it at 72% GP? The car was never fixed. It's still sitting there 2 weeks later. I haven't collected any money. What's going on? Well, I don't know how to do that. It's like, well, let's talk about that.
Exactly. It's kind of the job, yo. And that's kind of what I'm getting at here, though, is that even if he is in that role, taking care of the payroll, taking care of the office management, taking care of those things, what expectation has been placed on him. And so I guess that's my concern at this point. What is the expectation? What is it that he's expected to do in the business? And that's why I asked about the task list first. You know, when we went to hire a manager, Cecil made me write down every single task over like 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like mind numbing. And then you realize how much stuff you do. And then you really kind of realize how much of that is not necessarily needed and it's not that important. And what can I delegate? Right. And so I think that would be a good exercise for this shop owner is to write down everything he's doing and think about what is it that I would like to delegate to Peter? And what do I have to do to train Peter on these tasks? Adam, what do you think? I mean, are you thinking that how do you train your managers?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on in regards to making a list of tasks. At the very least, what do you do, right? Because that's part of. I think that's probably one element of putting together a proper job description, because you need to know what you're expecting of some people. Like, for instance, like some shops will have their managers doing payroll. Some shops don't. Some shops have like an HR department, or maybe the shop owner still does the payroll. So, with that in mind, I mean, there's going to be a lot of different things that.
What do you consider ideal? Because in my mind, like, it seems goofy to hire someone if you can outsource it to a service for $200 a month. Like, I'm not paying this guy $200 a month to sit there and calculate payroll. Like,
yeah, I mean,
I'm paying him way more. So why wouldn't I just hire the service?
I think we're all, including Peter, speculating like what his job role is going to be.
Yeah, I have no idea.
And I think one of the elements here that we have to give a little bit of grace with is that the shop owner is a family member, right? So he might be approaching this in a more casual sense versus what he'd normally do when he's hiring somebody that isn't family, if that makes sense. So that's just, something that I was thinking about, because, I mean, poor Peter here is getting crushed right now. And,
No, this is constructive.
Like right.
This is constructive. It's meant to be constructive, Peter.
I don't think I'm being crushed at all.
Let's see. There you go. That's a good attitude. There you go.
Stick
with that.
Because this brings up a really valid point. How many times have we seen owners go hire a family member and throw a family member into the business like this? And what would you do if you were in this family member's shoes? How would you? Because I've learned that I can't vary my process regardless of the situation, right? I built the process because the process has to work. And if I change the process, if I create variations and rules that go around the process, now the process stops working when I need it to work the most. And so especially if I'm going to hire somebody that's worked here before, if I'm going to hire a family member, I'm still going to follow the process to a T. That way I don't break it because I know it works. Does that make sense? Would you alter your process when hiring a family member?
I don't think I'd ever hire a family member, honestly. So there's that. But if I did, objectively, no. I mean, of course I wouldn't want to change anything, because then I'm just setting up the business. I'm setting myself up for like lower standards, right?
Yeah.
And also acceptable behavior that I wouldn't accept from somebody else. Right. And, when we're talking about business, and we have to be objective, right? It's like, it's not what is just easy for us. We have to think about the people that are involved in the business, all of our team members, our customers, so we can't dilute what we do just because someone's familiar. And I think and that's easy to say from this point of view, right? When you're doing it, it's much more difficult because, as shop owners, you can, I mean, in a way you kind of play God, right? You can kind of do whatever you want. And, we could sit here and say, let's say, don't give certain amount of discounts to friends and family, or don't let your, technicians work on their vehicles on the weekend because it opens up you to liability. But how many of us do that? Plenty of us do, right? So it's easier said than done, but yeah, I mean, that's probably why I would never hire family. And I mean, I've kind of been caught out there hiring friends, like that. And so, I mean, objectively, you really, really have to treat the relationship as separate from, your personal relationship. And if you can do that well enough, and I've seen it happen. I mean, there's plenty of family businesses that do extraordinarily well. But it really just depends on, I guess the people involved, how mature they are, how much they can set aside, different relationship dynamics. But as a shop owner, for sure, you have to stick to your guns, and you have to treat the situation just like any other situation with a person that's incoming, that, you're interviewing, that, you're putting through the processes, and you're giving them the expectations of the role.
Right. I think you're exactly right. And one of the things that Jeff on the Jaded Mechanic always talks about, and it's one of the things that he was fussing about right when we first kind of started the show and we started getting him on air and doing all these things, was he was working in a business where family members were involved. And he said, it is so frustrating from my perspective that the family members can perform at a lower level than I do. I get screamed at because the performance is not what it's supposed to be. And I'm getting screamed at for their performance and my performance, while they're just allowed to do whatever they want to do. And he said, for me, that's demoralizing, because here I am, I'm going as hard as I can. I'm turning over 40 hours a week. I'm working 40 hours a week. They're turning 10 hours a week, but their 10 hours is my problem. I have to make up their extra 30 hours in the owner's eyes. And I think that happens all too often because we don't want to have the hard conversation with the family member. We're not willing to go, because now it has much greater consequence, right? We're blowing up family relationships, and now aunt and uncle's mad and cousins mad, and this whole thing happens, and Christmas gets super awkward, right? Like, now we got to spend time with these people. Like an employee, if I ship them out, I ship them out. That's just what it is. It's a lot different scenario when it's a family member. So you got to be careful about that.
Yeah, you're going to end up having to fire them or be comfortable with firing them.
Yeah.
And if that's going to get awkward at holiday times, I don't know. Probably not a good idea to hire family.
Yeah. I mean,
Not in your case, Peter. I'm sure
Peter's going to fire the owner.
listen, I've been in the management roles before. I know what's expected of people. And if I suck, there will be no hard feelings if he wants to get rid of me. I understand how things work.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
That's very mature.
Yeah, for sure. That's pretty cool. So Adam, buddy, you have been extremely successful. The rest of us are kind of jelly of how successful you've been. Why do you think
in New
you're
York,
so
on top of all places?
I know.
I mean, I wouldn't say that, I've been extremely successful. I mean, I've got, just like all of us, we have peers in this industry that are, just crushing it, right?
Yeah.
I think anything. I think you could be successful in anything if you have your, your heart and mind into it, and you have a passion for it, and or you just have a crazy work ethic, and
right.
You catch some lucky breaks along the way, but you have to be willing to do the work to get there, and yeah, I mean, I think that it pays off at the end. You got to be a little smart along the way, of course, because you can work to your, I mean, we all know the shop owner that's been doing it for 30, 40, 50 years that has made no money, is one location and maybe just working himself, with a handful of people or no people at all. So, right. It's one thing to say hard work pays off, but it's, you have to be, what's the word I'm looking for? You have to be very deliberate with what you're doing, and how you go about it, and also think about how you can improve your situation at all times, right? So, especially for shop owners, right? Because we get into this business wanting to fix cars.
Yeah.
Maybe fix cars, help people, and without having any, business experience, knowledge, acumen, we end up not making any money, right? So along the way, you have to be, question things like, well, is this situation really working for me? Can I make it better? How can I make it better?
Right.
And obviously on the ground floor, it's gaining some knowledge, going to some classes, reading some books, and then eventually potentially getting like a business coach, but expanding kind of like your perspective on things. Yeah.
I made a reel this morning, or I released a reel this morning, and I was kind of talking about two linear lines that meet in the middle, right? And I think that was probably the biggest wake up call for me, is because for the longest time I thought it was the hard work and buckling down and making the thing happen that was going to make the shop work. And then I realized that, like, hey, I have to have a combination of hard work and I have to have a combination of knowledge. And I can't just do it with hard work and I can't just do it with knowledge. I have to combine those two things, and I have to get them to where they cross at the perfect spot in the middle of, like, hey, I'm going to put this much effort in with this much knowledge, and then I'll begin to move us forward. But I see a lot of shop owners, like you said, they spend a ton of time in it and they spend a ton of effort in it, or they gain a bunch of knowledge, David. And they gain a bunch of knowledge about running the business, and they sit back and they're like, hey, I need everybody else to go implement this now. And it's like, that doesn't work. Now, you can get to a spot where it does, and you spend that energy creating systems that allow that knowledge to be implemented in the business. But it takes hard work and it takes knowledge. It takes both of them. You can't just depend on one or the other, you know?
And you can overcome a lot with passion and work ethic. You can overcome a lot.
You can.
And
You can also work for 40 years and never have any more money.
That's true. But at least if you're passionate, though, you're going to keep grinding away at it. That's my point. Like, if you still love it, at some point they stop loving it, and now they're just working to work.
Yeah.
Like Darren, a poor dude that was working 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
He was by himself in a one-man shop, just flooded with cars, and he never took a step back to go, I need to create a system for this. I need to create a pathway. I need to, just like you were saying, like that moment, that realization that I'm going to take a step back and go, I can't keep doing this because it's not working.
Yeah.
I put my head down. I'm grinding. It's not working. Something's wrong. I don't know what causes shop owners completely ignore that intuition. They know it's not working because you ask them, you're like, hey, it's not working, right? No, you know it's not working. Yeah, I know it's not working. They'll go, okay, take a step back and figure something out. Like, let's go a different path because what you're doing now is not working. And they go right back to what they were doing. Right back to it. And you give them a pathway and they still go back to what they were doing. They lose their passion and then it becomes intolerable and they close the business or whatever. They quit or whatever. But if you still maintain the passion, you can grind for years. And what do you care? Like, you're happy doing it. You're happy tinkering on cars all day.
Adam, let me ask you this. Was there a moment in your career where that shift happened? Was there a moment when you realized, like, hey, this is not working, or hey, like, this is not sustainable? Did you ever have that moment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, a lot of us get to that point. I mean, for me, it was, if you remember correctly, it was about 7 years in, very typical story. We were not making money, working a lot. I was a lot younger then. And we were actually, I think we had moved already. We had moved, or maybe we were about to move or going to move the shop, and we was going to sign a pretty much like a 10-year lease. And I was like, okay, well, this seems like what I'm going to be doing forever. And not only that, at the time I was with my ex-wife, and we weren't married yet. And I really wanted to plan my life, with her. And so I had to make decisions and really kind of take a step back and analyze, like, what am I doing here? Why am I not able to move forward with any kind of goals, or even have any goals really at that point? Like, at that point I was like, okay, well, let's think about goals. Well, I want to get married, have a family one day. I want this business to be successful. I want to be able to grow the team and, expand the business and help more people. And how do I get there? Because what I'm doing isn't working. And so I think that's the first kind of like epiphany that you have to have, kind of like self-awareness of like where you are and what you're lacking. Because I was always thinking, hey man, I'm a pretty smart guy, or, everything's usually comes easy to me. So why isn't this coming easy? And I was not really looking at it from the perspective of, I actually have to learn things, beyond just opening my ears to what is around me. And so that was a big thing for me. And then I think the first, actually it was a class that I went to, probably between 2012 to 2013. It was, Kelly Bennett, if you guys know who that is.
For sure.
I went to his class, first business class I've ever been to. It was put on by WorldPack. Remember that it was in Jersey. And it was one of those like aha moments, right? Because I was never exposed to, KPIs and, all these different things that we're supposed to be tracking. And so once I started I think the first 4 hours, I think at lunch break, I ended up calling back the shop and going, we need to raise our rates, something like that, right? We need to do this, we need to do that, and it was that's like the biggest kind of like jump that you'll ever see in your business. I think it's kind of like, that first hit of whatever drug that you take, that's going to be the best high that you ever had, right? So you're going to see the most gains from, when you didn't know something completely to the point where, now you're implementing stuff. And I guess that was for me because, I had no idea that we even had to mark up parts, really. I was making, I don't know, 10, 20% of parts, something like that, something ridiculous. And I was always afraid of, trying to rip somebody off or what have you. And it took a really big paradigm shift to get there. But I think, the self-awareness part plays a role. And then once you let yourself, admit that you don't know something, then you can start like the learning process. So that was a big thing for me. Big time.
I know I look back and I think, so I started the shop in 2007 and it was probably about that same time frame that I started saying, this is not working. And this is miserable. It wasn't even that it was miserable. It was just like, I'm not actually living life. The business is consuming me. You know what I mean? And so everything I did was to keep the business afloat and not anything about me as a human being. And I think back and say, if I had learned just a little bit of that information 5, 6, 7 years earlier, it would have been a completely different ballgame. I would be in a completely different place right now as a human being. And so that's one of the big things about the podcast. And that's why we talk about these things over and over again. And when I make the reels, I'm talking about them over and over again, is because I hope that somebody will listen to this way earlier than I started listening and be aware enough to say, hey, dude, I need some help. I didn't know that. You know what I mean? And like start that trend of fixing the business. Now, did you hire a business coach?
Yeah. So at first, I think it was a bunch of classes, and then I took back then it was RLO. Yep. They had this guerrilla shop management course or something, the GSM I think it was, and they sent like this big thick binder at the time, and I think it was once or twice a week. It was like a class, and it was it was like once or twice a week for like 2-3 hours, and so it went through like. It was basically a crash course on shop management, right? And it was a really good one. I don't know if they still do that. I know that Institute, I think, bought them out.
Yeah, I think they do something really similar for sure.
Yeah, that was an awesome course. I think that every shop owner that has never been exposed to something like that really needs to go ahead and do that. And 1 second, I got to lock this door. That was the first thing. And then I did some coaching with Elite for a couple years. And then I joined Transformers Institute when Greg Bunch had just formed the group. So I was one of the first group members. And I did that for on and off for the last 7-8 years, something like that now,
Gotcha.
And then, obviously the conferences, the networking, and just a lot of reading, a lot of absorbing as much as you can. Try to keep that open mind, because I think one of the things that I struggle with now is, I wouldn't say information overload, but once you absorb a certain amount of baseline information, it gets hard to really pay attention to to new stuff. Right. Yeah. Because then you're like, I've gone through the phases like, I know that I don't need to, dive into that. I don't need to, listen to it. I don't need to waste my time with it. And then, going back to the beginning and realizing, oh no, you know what? I really should try to read this book and listen to this person and go to this conference and go to this meeting and sit in this class and not, for lack of a better term, like F off, right? Like, because that would happen, right? I mean, you've been to so many conferences, you sit in so many classes, you're like, oh, I don't want to have to listen to this again and again and again. Yeah. But, after a time, it gets harder to mine that golden nugget, but it's usually still there. There's usually something that you can learn,
And for me, it was motivation,
right? Like, I think that's what I miss from that. The classes, I'm to the point that when I go to the classes, and don't take this the wrong way, like you, it's not from a place of arrogance. It's like I've heard this 100 times, and there's a reason that I don't do this or I don't do that or I do this as opposed to that, right? It's just that, like, being in that room with those people and talking shop and talking about the things is in its own way this little bit of motivation, right? And I think that's what I miss from going to all the classes and doing all those things consistently over and over again, and being in that group of peers to push you. And especially as the shops grow, right? Because, like, it's interesting. You talk about the fact that your training and coaching journey changed throughout the years, because as you know, like, I think we outgrow those business coaches and we outgrow those peers. And I don't mean that in a mean way. It's just like the person who's doing $30,000 a month is not going to understand what it's like to be doing $200,000 or $300,000 a month, because it's a different set of challenges. And so then all of a sudden, especially in your local group of peers, the number of shops performing at that level is usually pretty low. And so it's hard to find somebody that understands what you go through and what position you're in and what it feels like. You know, and there's a smaller number of folks in that world. Now, when did you start using Shopware?
I've gone through a few different shop management softwares in number of years that we've been doing this. I think we started with RO Writer was our first one way back when. Then we were with Mitchell for a couple years, then Protractor for a couple years, and from Protractor, that's when I jumped to Shopware, and I think that was around 21. I think. Yeah. I think it's been at least 3 years, if not 4 years, that I'm with Shopware.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I for me, that was the big switch, because I'd been using ALLDATA Manage. And when we switched to Shopware was when things kind of started coming together for me, because now I had the analytics that I hadn't been able to have. I was able to, I use Shopware, and a lot of folks don't understand this, especially the customer interface in Shopware is really where it shines, because it creates an experience that the consumer is used to having. It's got kind of that Amazon feel to it. It's got that online web store feel to it. And so a lot of the consumers that I work with are used to that experience. And as we started implementing Shopware was when we saw this way to build our business around a product like that and connect to a product like that. And that became part of who we were. Right? It became part of what we offered. And so when we made that shift is when we started moving in a direction and doubling down on, here's what our differentiating factors are. Here's our competitive advantage. And so, like, a lot of the shop owners I talk to, you'll say, hey, why would a consumer pass 50 other shops to come to yours? And what do they say? Well, I'm the best. And you ask them, you're like, okay, well, what does the best mean? I fix cars nobody else can fix. Bro, you know that fixing cars is base level competency. That's what the consumer expects. Like, they're expecting you to fix the car. That's a base level expectation. And so, like, I started saying, and I was thinking about Malin Newton, God rest his soul. Malin always talked about Disney. And David hated it when I talked about the Disney story, but Malin said we should be forming our shops after that Disney experience. And he said it wasn't the rides at Disney. It wasn't the food at Disney. You weren't paying for any of that. You were paying for the Disney experience. And so that's when I started saying, okay, I want to create a competitive advantage for my organization. I want to do something that sets me apart from the rest. And I kind of put Shopware at the center of that and made everything about the client experience. Have you found something like that in your business that you do? Is what's your competitive advantage?
So, I mean, I think Shopware definitely ties into that. From the perspective of just differentiating yourself, this is what I tell my staff. This is what I tell my team, is because we have weekly meetings every week, obviously, and what I explain to my team is we have all the tool, like every shop has all the tools available to them. Whether they subscribe to it or not, they can, right? Yeah. Every shop could have Shopware. The difference is how we use it and our, I would say, just how much deliberate intention that we we apply to actually using the tools that we have, and how does it enhance our overall mission, right? And one of the big things that I push all the time is customer experience. Instead of just the Disney, because I'm very familiar with the whole Disney analogy, but I guess more relatable, it's like, well, what would you want as a consumer? What would your wife want as a consumer? What would your mother want as a consumer? What is their expectations? And you kind of just reverse engineer, from that point. And so if you can hit all the things or a lot of things that would delight somebody and create a great customer experience, then that's probably what you should do. And so Shopware fits well into that because, as you mentioned, I think, in my opinion, I try to stay on top of a lot of shop softwares. Is that the UI, the user interface, is great, right? Like it's great for us, and also customer facing, it's really good. And there's not too many other shop softwares that I would say are comparable. Actually, when I was kind of deciding what to go with, whether it was going to be Shopware or TechMetric or something else, I think it was ShopMonkey actually had quite a nice interface. I just realized that there was going to be a lot of things that I didn't like about it, so I didn't go in that direction. But right up there, if not better, would be Shopware, in my opinion. I think it's a very nicely packaged software, in terms of our user experience as well as the customer facing stuff, right? So, and if we're all about trying to create a better customer experience, then, I'm not going to be sending PDF documents or even printing them out and doing things the old way. I'd rather do things the more, modern way, right? And so, that's how it's helped me in that sense in our business.
Yeah, I very, very similar trajectory there. And you're exactly right. Like, hey, what would I want? I was telling you before we started that I kind of took over some of the stuff with the family business. And I took the manager of the family business. We were in Arizona for the Sunrise Automotive Conference. And the family business is an entertainment center, right? Doesn't have anything to do with automotive. And the family business coach is in Phoenix. So we all went out there and we went and toured his facilities and looked at some other stuff. And one of the cool things about that is the managers walking around these other facilities saying, this is a really cool experience. I like this about this. I don't like this about that. And I asked him, I said, have you ever considered that about the family business? Have you ever thought about that aspect of it? He said, no, because when I walk into the family business, it's about cleaning up and fixing the things that are broken and dealing with the problems and dealing with what's right in front of me. I've never walked through and thought about it from the aspect of the consumer. And I think we do that with our businesses often, right? We don't ever think about this from their perspective. We don't ever look at it from their perspective. So, one of the things we do here in the shop is we will create estimates for an employee vehicle, a loaner car, something, and we'll go through the process as if we were consumers to make sure it looks like it should look. And I don't think many of us are doing that. We get caught up in the day-to-day row of making the business do what it does. And there's that process creep that nobody ever notices. And slowly you're not providing the product that you think you are because you're not looking at it. You're not paying attention to it. And so, like for me, the things I think about when I walk into a hotel, if I don't know where to go, if I don't know where the check-in desk is, guess what? That's uncomfortable to me. If I check in and I'm standing there and nobody's told me where the elevators are, that's uncomfortable. And so one of the big things I've tried to create here in my shop is I want them to understand what to expect. I want them to know what happens next. And I think it builds comfort and it gives them a little bit of peace of mind. And so everything I've tried to do here is around that concept. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That's one of the big things that I've actually started to think about really is, certain situations, I think, especially with the customer interactions, I think there's a little bit of confusion as to what happens next, right? So not only just when they come through the door and, are they in the right place, or if they're parked in the right spot, that's the beginning steps, but, in the middle as well. For instance, just not to go off on a tangent, but there's certain weird, not so much weird. I don't know, maybe you guys experience this as well. But every year we have this particular issue where a lot of our like AC troubleshooting starts with recharging the system, right? You have to pull vacuum, you have to make sure there's no leaks, and you have to make sure, the amount of refrigerant is correct, and oil, and et cetera, right? That's the first step, right? It's the first step, and then what comes next. And so what I have found that with us, we have a lot of customers that maybe have different cultural backgrounds, speak different languages, that sort of thing. So communicating with them can be hard. Yep. And so what ends up happening is a lot of times we'll do that first step. We'll explain to them as thoroughly as we think that we're doing. We'll have it in writing. It's in Shopware as well. And they'll be surprised that there's something that comes after, right?
Yeah.
Additional testing, a part that needs to be replaced, whatever it might be.
Right.
And so what I explain to my team is, we are not doing the best job that we can with telling the consumer, telling our customer, what comes next? What's the next step, right?
Yeah.
So there needs to be a plan laid out, and the customers need to be in on it.
You know what we did with that is on anything that may result in additional estimates or may result in additional testing, in the job name before they approve it, it says that, right? Now I'm going to tell you something else about that, because I have done that just like you laid out for years. And when we started, we got to this thing where we were going back and forth with Thomas Leck, and I'm sure you've seen he has like an HVAC group on Facebook. And we got to the point where we're going back and forth, and he started a group, and I'm going to tell you something. That guy is really smart. And it turns out that us automotive guys, we're just used to going and hooking that machine up. And we're starting to learn more about the commercial and residential HVAC systems, because that's what's going to be in cars soon, right? We're going to a heat pump style system. And when we talked about that with Thomas began to say like, hey, why are you pulling the refrigerant out of the system first? And I'm like, well, because I need to know how much is in it. And he's like, that's not how you tell how much is in it. You got to check your superheat and your subcool. And I'm like, what is that? And I'm telling him like, hey, we keep having additional leaks come back. He's like, well, what was the micron reading? And I'm like, I don't know. And so I began to figure out that there were holes in our process on the backside of that, where we had just been doing what had been done for years. And I began to learn there were other ways to do that. And there were other ways to tell, is the system low? And so it gave us more information to approach that from the get-go. And believe it or not, it took us less time. So it wasn't as big of a deal until we started dealing with 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? When we started dealing with that, because now, guess what? That machine takes an hour and a half as opposed to that 20 minutes.
So you put these systems in for 134 where close enough is good enough?
Do what?
It's 134. It's close enough is good enough.
Listen, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you can.
I could see putting all of these
probes and throw the gauges on it and run it, and you can have an idea of what's going on with the system if it runs, and you can give an idea of is it low or not before you get into the situation of pulling it down, so you can save that method of going in and pulling the refrigerant out of it, going back in, putting dye back in it, looking for it. That way it gives you a way to approach it that you can bring more value and information to the consumer, is what I'm saying. It doesn't take more time, right? It's kind of like part of the process.
I don't know. No, I could see with 12 with 1, 2, 3, 4. That, yeah. I'm with you there, because the machine
it's way
takes
over my head. Okay, like
I'm just saying the machine takes 8 hours. The machine takes 8 hours to cycle through the process. Like so it makes sense to like, okay, I'm going to hook up probes to it. I'm going to get temperature differential. I'm going to get all this information, because pulling the refrigerant out and then putting more back in, and the no dyes work, right? So that turns into a whole thing. But with 134, like no, just. You got to get the fast machine too, the old school like Robin Air snap-on machine that you hit a button and 30 seconds later it's ready to go, and then it just jams a whole bunch of refrigerant and dye in there, and then that's it, done.
I mean,
is it holding or not? No, it's not holding. We got a big leak. That's it.
Here's the advantage that I see of doing it the other way is now we can go back to the consumer and truly advise them about what to expect. right? I can go ahead and say, I'm going to pull this down and put nitrogen in it. And here's how we're going to go about this process from this point forward. But I can get an idea, right? Because if you knew how many times we've pulled refrigerant out and then found out that it wasn't low and we just wasted 25 minutes doing something that did not fix the car because we had a compressor issue, we had something else going on, we had an expansion valve issue.
Step one is turn it on to see if it works.
Yeah.
Is the compressor turning on? Step two. Then you pull refrigerant. So maybe you skip those 2 steps.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I don't know. I'm just saying, if you've not checked it out, it's worth looking at, Adam. It's really.
You're going to have to tell me more about that offline so I can.
I'm just telling you, like, the guy's crazy smart. But also, at some point, like, you have to, if you're charging what he charges, and he charges a lot, he's in San Francisco. So, it's going to be $800 an hour because it's San Francisco. Like, you're eating beans and rice at $800 an hour. And so he needs to pull like the biggest pieces of equipment, and it needs to look like you're doing brain surgery. Because if it doesn't look like you're doing brain surgery, these psychos in San Francisco are going to look at that and go, the hell am I paying $800 an hour for? Like, can't you just put refrigerant back in it? It's like, no. And also California. So you add that to the mix in there. So like, you want it to look as complex as humanly possible. But here's the other.
That's just it. It doesn't look complex.
Yes, it does. Yes, and you just said you're like, it's over my head. He's really smart. I don't know what's going on.
It's the numbers and stuff, David. You know, I'm just
exactly.
dummy, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's getting this giant piece of equipment out, and these vacuum hoses are like this big.
This big.
Yeah.
Like, it's got 2 hoses.
Well, no, that's just the reader. That's just the reader. But the hoses are that big. They're bigger than the reader. And then he hooks up these giant, like, fire hydrant hoses to pull vacuum, so you can get it down to this micron level to see how long it holds. It's because he's charging $800 an hour. Like, it's a whole dog and pony show. You have to do it that way. Otherwise, like, how are you going to justify the charges? Look, like, the guy had to go all the way out to the shop, and he had to do all this stuff. Like, I would do the same thing.
Low or overcharged. Hey, we just did one the other day that Eric went out to. He was in a hurry. We're behind. He went out and he said, hey, it's undercharged. He threw the machine on it and he pulled refrigerant out of it, and it was way overcharged. Right? And so they had already sold a leak test, everything else. And all that was wrong with the system was it needed to be properly charged. And it would have been very different.
How did it get overcharged?
Conversation with the client, as opposed to saying, now it's going to be $400 to do the nitrogen test. It's going to be this to do this.
And well, hold on. Why was it overcharged? Like, somebody put refrigerant in there.
Yeah, they had worked on it themselves, and they put too much refrigerant in it.
Well, why though? They don't just add refrigerant just to add refrigerant. Nobody's going to touch their system.
Right,
there was an underlying issue.
Work on the car themselves. And so when they did the work on the car, they overcharged it. And so it would not pull properly.
I see.
And so it's
like they replaced the component, and they're like,
it's like a dummy. It's just they didn't have a scale. And so when they recharged it, they didn't get the right amount in it. That's all it was.
You have to really overcharge
when you put a
the
map
system
gas
for it
torch
to
on the
work.
side of a 134 can, really interesting things happen. You can pump a system slap full of refrigerant like that.
Is that what he did? I'm going to heat this sucker up just so I can get a little bit of refrigerant in there.
That's it.
That seems safe. Do it with 1234. See what happens.
Hey, man, I'm telling you what, until you do that with a nitrous bottle, you just don't know what weird looks are, right? Like in the back of a car going like this. Oh, God. It's maybe a little sketch, just a little bit. But here's the other variable. The close enough is good enough worked with 134. It does not work with 1234YF. No. So people that own these 1234YF pieces of shit, they call me and I'm like, hey, it's $250 min for me to just to look
start touching the system. Yeah. And they're like, what do you mean? Just to look at it? I'm like, well, I'm not looking at it, but to start the process, to start the diagnostic process, like it's $250 to start. And then the refrigerant is, I think we're charging $7 or something like that an ounce. And it's like, it's this whole process, and the refrigerant's very expensive, and we can just put refrigerant in there and wait for it to leak out like we used to. Like, it's a whole thing. And they're like, oh, I'm going to call around. It's like, okay, great. But you get on these Facebook forums, and how many people are like, oh, what are you charging to test for 1234? Why? I don't know. How long does it take you? What's your overhead per minute in the shop? Figure it out. It should be, I don't know, a lot of money. It shouldn't be $99.99 like you're running specials with the mailers like you used to with the old system. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. For sure. You're making me look like I'm overcharging when I'm not. You're way undercharging. You're making it bad for all of us. You, whoever's watching this, you're making it bad for all of us.
Hey, David, I've got a question.
I've lost my passion, is what I'm saying. Like, I don't care about these cars.
I don't think there's a single listener that doubts
and I'm lazy.
Lost your passion.
So, like, lazy plus don't care is bad recipe for shop ownership. I'm just telling you right
Hey,
there.
listen, I just have one other question, completely unrelated, and I'm going to veer us way off path here. I'm just wondering what combination of medications you're taking right now that have turned your skin green. I'm a little worried that you
I was told I was overly tan the other day.
Huh?
I was told that somebody said, you look really tan. And I'm like, well, my wife has me outside digging ditches. That's what she does. She's like, I bought 15 shrubs. I need them planted. I'm like, okay. And I go outside and dig ditches for hours in the heat, 96 degrees.
That's why you're angry,
that or
man.
shop ownership.
I'm sweating balls, and it's great. I'm very dark. You can see. I don't know. You can tell, but I'm very dark. You're
Very
purple.
good.
I don't want to hear it.
Adam, closing thoughts. What do you think about it?
About what? We've been talking about all kinds of weird stuff.
I don't know. Take your pick, bro.
Well, I mean, good luck, Peter. Hopefully that works out for you.
Yeah.
And Shopware is pretty awesome. Works for me. And yeah, sometimes customers suck, but they pay our bills.
You summarized it beautifully. Peter, what's your takeaway? First experience dealing with crazy shop owners. This is what you have to look forward to. I'm really sorry, but what are your takeaways?
I think it's really interesting. I think you guys definitely have a passion for it, and it's kind of like a.
No, I just said I don't. I just literally just said I don't.
But your face said something different.
I just get angry easily. These people aren't charging enough. That's all it is. These people are not charging enough.
I mean,
you don't want to. Hey, this is your future, Peter. I'm just telling you right now. This is your future. I get a 2019 GMC Yukon dropped off at the shop. Okay, 2019 GMC Yukon. So already dumpster fire. Just right off the bat, dumpster fire. They're giant long pieces of shit. That's what they are. And the guy goes, hey, the check engine light's flashing and it's bucking. I just put a transmission in it. We did that, by the way. You guys just put a transmission in it. I think there's something wrong with the transmission.
Did he
That's
also
where you
say
went
people
with that?
Didn't want to drive behind him?
That was an exhaust that was hanging down. I don't know how Brandon missed that. Anyway, that's where he meant immediately. Now, I get it. In people's mind, they're like, that's the last thing they touched. Therefore, that's what's wrong with it. It's not. It can't be that because that's what they fixed. I don't know how they disassociate those two things. You paid me to fix the thing. Why would you think when something else goes wrong, it's the thing that I just fixed? Why would you think that? That doesn't make any sense.
Because if it's not,
Did you hire a plumber?
Fixed, you have to pay for it.
That's the problem. You don't hire a plumber, they fix the pipe, another leak starts, and it's like, hey, it's that pipe you just fixed that's leaking again. No, you assume that's fixed. It's got to be somewhere else. You don't think it's the thing that someone just fixed. Why are you paying me to fix it if you just automatically assume I didn't fix it?
That's me.
That's what you have to look forward to.
That's
every day.
That's literally me every day.
Adam, you're too chill.
That's me every day because that's why I don't go to the shop because I'll get into those situations.
Yeah, I lose my mind.
Ever since you did in my oil change, my car doesn't work right. It's like what the fuck. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's always something. It's always something.
It is. But it's not that bad. Like, David's just uber sensitive to it. Like, at the end of the day, it's not that terrible. And once you build a team and you build those, like, levels of things around you, it doesn't impact.
No, Peter, that's you, by the way. That's the levels of things around you. That's you. That's you. You're literally the guy that has to deal with this BS because the shop owner is just tired of it. Like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I had a
though, is that he is not emotionally tied to it like we're emotionally tied to it. Right, we spend all this energy and poured so much of ourselves into the business.
You're detached. There's a detachment.
He's detached from it. This is who we are. And so, like, David, the problem is you just never, like, You never created any layer between you and them, and you just won't
No,
get
I
out
got
of Juan's
Juan.
way.
Get out of here.
If
I
you
don't
just
do-
get
yeah,
out
I
of
don't-
Juan's way, the shop would work,
Are you
bro.
kidding me? He gets no support from me. That poor guy. I leave him hanging out to dry every day. I'm like, hey, I got a recording. I can't come help you. Sorry. Click. That's it.
Yeah, but you get pissed off when you hear the stories, though.
Yeah.
Do you not?
I get him into my email inbox.
Yeah, and you
I
get
get 'em.
mad, right?
I do get mad.
Yeah, because you
So
get
mad.
emotional about it. Yeah, I mean, I get the same way. Like, I want to
It's
fight
just-
some customers. I mean, like, when we get a bad review and I analyze the whole thing through, or if I hear just a customer going off on somebody, on the front counter, man, I just want to fight them. I really, it boils my blood, right? So that's what we're talking about here, When you're emotionally invested, then the highs and lows. I mean, the lows are lows and the highs are highs, but it just you focus on the things that just annoy the crap out of you.
I'm just going to tell you, Peter, that there is an advantage to having crazy veins that pop out of your head if you start to get angry. I'm just telling you, I had a situation where this guy came in and he had a 2017 Jeep Wrangler that was probably had $25,000 of stupid accessories on the stupid Jeep. Okay. Just think of every stupid thing you could put on the Jeep. He had it on there. All of the brakes were shot. All of the brakes, calipers shot, brake hoses, brake pads, rotors, absolutely everything on the brakes was destroyed. It was going to be like $1,500 to fix. That's what it was. And so I tell the guy, I'm like, hey, it's going to be $1,500 to fix your brakes. And he's like, okay, well, can you just put that one brake pad in that's all the way ground down? And I go, no, I can't. And at this point, I'm standing up. he was about my height at this point, and I'm like, I start to feel the rage start to like lift up. And he looks at me. He's like, "But I'm the customer."
Oh, that was the wrong thing to say.
I go, I understand that you're the customer, but you don't know anything about cars. I'm the professional. I'm not touching your car unless we fix it right. If we don't fix it right, I understand. He's like, well, I don't want to drive it out of here like this. I'm like, okay, I'll tow it wherever you want. I don't want to tow it either. It's like, okay, well, those are your two choices. Either you fix it or you tow it, or you could drive it. I wouldn't recommend it because you're going to die. And he's like, I just don't understand. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to half-ass this job. Like, I'm not. He wanted me to put one brake pad in. One brake pad, not a set of brake pads, not a wheel, one brake pad in so he could drive it for a couple more days while he figured out what he was going to do.
This is what's funny about that situation.
Take those $35,000 wheels off the car, sell them on eBay, put the stock ones back on and pay for your brakes. He had his kid in the car. Now, he was acting a fool in front of his kid, and I would have felt really bad if I would have had to pop him in the mouth in front of his son.
That's the same guy that's going to give you a one-star
emasculate
review.
your father, boy.
And-
That's what I'm about to do.
But he's going to, in the one-star review, they're going to write, this guy tried to rip me off. This guy's
Oh, yeah.
only,
I was
all this guy
waiting for
cares
it.
about is
Oh,
money.
I was waiting for
That's
it.
why he wants
I
me to
was
do things that
waiting
I
for
don't
it.
need to do that. It's like, wait, hold on. Did I not just give you the choice of driving the car out of here?
Yeah,
Like, I don't want your money unless I'm going to do the job right. So how does that make me a ripoff? But I don't know, man. I mean, people have very small brains sometimes.
The last low review I got is he says the guy's a very good salesman. They're clearly not a BMW shop because they did this and then they did this and then they did this. And what it was is we had to make an initial repair. And in that it says this may result in additional estimates. We have to do additional testing once this is done. It said it all over the repair order, right? Now, when they went back to him and they explained that, he flipped out. And so I pick up the phone and I call him. I said, listen, here's the deal. It doesn't sound like me and you are on the same page. If you want to come get your car, come get your car. I will return the parts. I don't even care. I won't charge you for what we've done right now because you clearly don't seem happy with the service that we're offering. This is what we do here. If you want to come get your car, I respect that. I won't charge you a dime. Come get it. No. That's not it at all. That's not what I want to do. I'm not interested. Oh, I want this. I want that. And then he says that it's because I'm such a good salesman, I twisted his arm into continuing with the repairs. And so I responded to his review and I said that. I said, I offered to walk away and not charge you a dime for anything, but I also explained this is the process we have to go through to properly repair your automobile. By the way, we drove it over 100 miles to get it to act up. And so, like, I started to get really mad. At the bottom of his email signature, there's a link
Okay. And I click on that link because it says something about a memorial foundation. And at the very bottom, I click on this and I go to it, and it's about his daughter who is no longer with us.
Oh.
And it's
Now you made
her
me feel bad
memorial
about for the
foundation.
guy.
And so I went in there and I donated $200, which is what I charged him for testing, which is what he was frustrated about. And I got to thinking about the fact that, there are things in people's lives that make them bitter. There's things in people's life that make them feel the way that they feel and act the way that they act. And I can't understand that all the time. And I couldn't imagine being in his shoes. And so comes back to what Jeremy Hoyam, the family business coach, says: can you afford someone a smile they don't deserve? And so I kind of felt bad for being as aggressive as I was after the fact, but
Well, I didn't feel bad at all for this guy. Screw that guy with the Jeep. I didn't feel bad at all. I was going to backhand him. David, it wasn't going to be close fist. It would have been this back of the hand, right across the face, like whap. Like,
David,
what are you doing?
David has recently buffed up and lost weight and really been working out to try and,
It's the TRT, man. That's why he's just so angry.
Well,
the
estrogen started coming up too.
Yeah,
and so now it's
the
a
estrogen's
combination
all
of
off.
emotions
Yeah.
all at once.
It's not, if you jack up the testosterone, it doesn't affect you at all. If you throw in a whole bunch of estrogen in there, you go through a roller coaster, let me tell you. You got to keep it low. Men are not designed to handle estrogen levels of a woman. It's not a thing.
Thank you guys for being here.